Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're journeying back in time thousands of years to ancient China. Ideas in world history, the mandate of heaven. This isn't just some dusty old concept. It shaped the rise and fall of dynasties for over 3,000 years, and its echoes can still be felt today. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's explore how a divine right to rule was won, and more importantly, how it could be lost. The story of the Mandate of Heaven, or Tianming, begins around 1046 BCE. Picture this: the ruling dynasty, the Shang, had been in power for centuries. But their final king was known for his corruption and cruelty. A rival state, the Zhou, rose up. Led by King Wu, the Zhou didn't just conquer the Shang with military might. They needed a powerful justification for their takeover. This is where the Mandate of Heaven comes in. The Zhou leaders proclaimed that heaven, the supreme impersonal divine force, had withdrawn its favor from the wicked Shang ruler and bestowed it upon the virtuous Zhou. It was a revolutionary idea. Power wasn't just about bloodlines anymore. It was about moral righteousness. The ruler, now called the Son of Heaven, had a sacred duty to govern justly and for the good of the people. If he failed, heaven would show its displeasure through natural disasters like floods, famines, and earthquakes. These were seen as cosmic warnings that the ruler had lost the mandate. This concept created a fascinating cycle. A new dynasty would rise, claiming the mandate of heaven. They'd often start strong, restoring order, lowering taxes, and improving the lives of the people. The early years would be a golden age of peace and prosperity. But over time, corruption might creep in. Rulers could become complacent, extravagant, and disconnected from their subjects. As the dynasty weakened, those natural disasters would start to happen more frequently. Famine, floods, social unrest were signs that heaven was getting angry. This would then embolden ambitious warlords and rebel leaders to challenge the throne. They'd declare that the emperor had lost the mandate and that they were the ones chosen by heaven to start a new, virtuous dynasty. If a rebellion was successful, it was seen as proof that the mandate had indeed been transferred. The success itself was the justification. Became the fundamental pattern of Chinese history, from the Zhou all the way to the Qing dynasty in the early 20th century. So, where did this idea come from? Geographically, we're talking about the cradle of Chinese civilization, the Yellow River Valley in northern China. This area was the heartland of the Shang and Zhou dynasties. It was a fertile but challenging environment. The Yellow River, also known as China's sorrow, was prone to devastating floods. Early Chinese society was agrarian, deeply dependent on the rhythms of nature. It's no wonder they developed a worldview where the harmony between humanity, led by the emperor, and the cosmic order, heaven, was paramount. A good ruler ensured this harmony, resulting in good harvests and stability. A bad ruler disrupted it, leading to disaster. The mandate of heaven was a uniquely Chinese philosophical framework, deeply intertwined with the geography and the challenges of life in this specific part of the world. It was different from, say, the divine right of kings in Europe, where a monarch's right to rule was often seen as absolute and passed down through blood, regardless of their competence or morality. The culture that grew around the mandate of heaven was profound. It placed a huge emphasis on ethics and good governance. Philosophers like Confucius and Mencius, who lived during the later Zhou dynasty, heavily elaborated on this. They argued that a ruler's primary duty was benevolence and maintaining social order. The mandate wasn't a license for power, it was a heavy burden of responsibility. The emperor had to perform complex rituals to honor heaven and his ancestors, ensuring the cosmic balance was maintained. This created a culture where the government was, in theory, accountable to a higher moral standard. It also gave the people, in a way, the right to rebel. If the ruler was failing and a rebellion succeeded, it was retroactively justified. This idea was so powerful that it became ingrained in Chinese culture, even today. The idea that a government must prove its legitimacy through performance and maintaining social stability has its roots in the ancient concept of the mandate of heaven. Think about the implications. A ruler couldn't just do whatever they wanted. They were constantly being watched, not just by their subjects, but by heaven itself. Court historians would meticulously record events, interpreting natural disasters and unusual phenomena as omens related to the emperor's conduct. This created a system of checks and balances, albeit a cosmic one. If a flock of crows was seen flying backward or a two-headed calf was born, it could be interpreted as a sign of heavenly displeasure. This belief system fostered a deep sense of history and precedent. Each new dynasty would look back at the reasons the previous one fell, vowing not to make the same mistakes and lose the mandate. It created a historical narrative that was constantly being written and rewritten, with each dynasty trying to prove its own legitimacy by pointing out the moral failures of its predecessor. Now, let's look at how this played out in reality. The Zhou dynasty, which introduced the concept, ironically had the longest reign in Chinese history, about 800 years. However, for much of that time, their actual power was weak, and China was fragmented into warring states. Yet, the idea of the mandate persisted. It was later used by Liu Bang, a peasant who rose to defeat the harsh Qin dynasty and establish the glorious Han dynasty around 200 BCE as a commoner who became emperor. His success was the ultimate proof that the mandate of heaven wasn't limited to nobility. It could be claimed by anyone virtuous and capable enough to unite the country and restore order. This happened time and time again. The Ming dynasty was founded by a former peasant monk. The Manchu invaders, who established the final dynasty, the Qing, also adopted the concept to legitimize their rule over Han Chinese. It was a remarkably adaptable and resilient political tool, but was it all just clever propaganda? A convenient excuse for power grabs? To some extent, Yes. Ambitious leaders absolutely used the mandate of heaven to justify their rebellions and legitimize their rule after the fact. It was a brilliant piece of political marketing, but it was also much more than that. It infused Chinese politics with a moral dimension and a sense of accountability that was unique in the ancient world. It created an expectation that rulers should be ethical and responsible for the well-being of their people. When they weren't, the mandate of heaven provided a framework for change, a cosmic permission slip for revolution. So, the mandate of heaven was this incredible blend of religion, philosophy, and political theory. It gave Chinese emperors their authority, but also placed significant limits on their power. It explained the rise and fall of dynasties through a moral lens, creating a predictable cycle of history. And it embedded the idea that a government's legitimacy comes from its just and effective rule, a concept that remains incredibly relevant even in our modern world. It's a testament to the power of an idea to shape the destiny of a civilization for millennia. What an amazing piece of history. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into early China.